Good morning, guys. Bob Lee here with Relic Rescue. Today I'm going to be doing something entirely different. No metal detecting, no bottle hunting, no historic old home tours. Today I'm going to be building a display case for the bottles that I've collected. It comes a time you got to kind of stop and think about, well, how are you going to showcase them? And I really like the idea of using old pallets to repurpose that wood, but I just don't pick any pallet. I like a pallet that's got better wood than, say, old pine that's all beat up and splintered. This pallet, I am told, I am not an expert woodworker by any means. It's got poplar, some sort of a red oak, maybe some ash on the other side. I've already broken one pallet down. I'm fixing to break this one down and show you how I do it. These cross members are 40 inches. My display case will be 36 inches wide by 29 inches high. And so if I take a skill saw and I cut both these ends off, that leaves me with 37 inches. That's plenty to play with. And so without further ado, let's get going. So I've got both sides done, and now I'm going to loosen up these middle pieces, take them off, and then flip it over and do the other side. So now I've got to create a gap right here with these cross members so that I can get a sawzall in there with a metal blade and cut these nails off. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to try it with a rubber mallet first. Just want to get it a little bit loose so there's a gap there. Come around behind, I can tap it. And then for this one down here, isn't quite as easy as they make it look on YouTube. Okay, let's see if the next one goes a little better. Okay, I gotta flip this up, get this last piece off. Okay. Already got the opposite side cut here. I had to lay this part of it down because there's no support cross members and make it too wobbly up there on the sawhorse. Here we go. And to get these nails out, just take a punch, hammer, work it through to the other side. There we go. Take your hammer. And so that's just all there is to it for getting the nails out. I'll do this with the rest of the planks. So it took me about 15 minutes to get all the nails out, and I thought I'd show you the wood that's left that I've got to work with. I have 8 planks of poplar, These average anywhere between 5 1/8 and 5 3/4. So they're kind of uneven, but this is what's going to make the frame and 2 shelves. So that's going to require 6 boards. I've got 8, so I will choose the best 6 out of the 8 and use the others somehow or other. This is kind of a learn as you go, or do as you, maybe better put, a do as you go process. Now these narrower boards are about 3 1/2 inches. This is poplar, pretty sure. All these black marks can be taken out with an orbital sander. That's not too much of a problem. The edges, of course. So I like these. They're really pretty good shape. They're not splintered. And if you had used other methods to remove these planks from the pallet, there's a good chance you're going to splinter the ends, and it's going to go a little deeper than what we've got here. This is what I think is the red oak. It's pretty wood, and it's in good shape as well. And then we've got the remaining planks, and I'm not sure. This is some really nasty stuff, or nasty looking. I don't know how that would sand out. I'm guessing this is some kind of a spruce. I'm in my office and decided to make some changes to my original plans on the second bottle display case. The one I'm working on now will fit right here beneath my first display case. Instead of using the wider boards like I had told you I would earlier, I've changed my mind. I am concerned about the disparity in size between this frame and this one, and I'm very concerned about the amount of light that will get in and the amount of shade cast by these boards. Not going to use the wider boards for the frame. Instead, I'm going to use the narrower boards, 3 1/2 inch. That will be my frame. Since I've had a change of heart and decided to change the size, or reduce the size, if you will, of the display case, I've been looking at the wood I've got available here from the cross pieces, the narrower pieces that are about 3 1/2 inches. And I really like this red oak, but I don't have enough of it to go all the way around. Unfortunately, I've looked at the pieces, and this one it's pretty warped. These 2 pieces are probably the straightest. I'm going to cut them to 36 inches. This is another piece of red oak. That's going to go on the side of the display case, which now is going to come 27 inches from the top to the bottom. I've also realized that when I was kind of ballparking it earlier, that 29 inches is going to be too deep because it's going to cover up that receptacle in the wall. So 27 inches is going to be it. This will be one side, and this looks like poplar, and this will be the opposite side. I've already measured this top board, put a pencil mark at 36 inches, even them up. So the way I'm going to butt these boards together is so that the side board comes underneath the top board of the display case. So that means from this edge all the way down to the bottom edge, it will be 27 inches. The side board needs to be cut at 26 because they are a 1/2 inch thick. So I've already measured this board out. I've trimmed the ends so that they're even, and put a square on it. Put my pencil mark. Now, I want to do a little sanding. Want to get all this black off. Going to sand this groove a little bit. Going to sand around the edges, just enough to kind of get it halfway smooth. I'm using an orbital sander with a 120 grain pad on it. I probably would rather have something like 80 grain, but I don't know. We'll see how we do. Going to get them smooth out here. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's starting to get it smooth. Most of the black marks are gone. Like I said, I wish I had 80 grit, but I don't. think I am going to get a mask, even though it's got a dust collector on the back. I'm still getting a little dust. Yep, I'm not big on getting dust in my lungs. I'll probably have to do a little bit more sanding on this, like right here in this edge, just coming along. And this groove here from the saw blade, I don't know that that's necessarily unattractive. It just goes to show that it's, you know, it's been rough cut, primitive. But I did want to knock the coarse stuff off of it. So I spent about 20 minutes sanding the boards. Wasn't too hard. I come to realize as I was sanding that this board is a little too fractured. It's just not going to work. That's coming apart. So I subbed in another board that's really much better. And I really like the grain. I like the transition from the dark to the light. And something else I am not going to do that I did on the first display case was I am not going to fill in the nail holes with wood putty. If you just leave it as it is, it kind of retains that rustic, used appearance that a pallet board should have. Although I did want to sand them. I wanted to get all you got all the little pieces of fiber sticking up, and I wanted to knock that off. And that's just me. Other people may just want to let it go. Well, I have to tell you, this has been somewhat of a debacle. There's no way I was going to film what I had done to get to this point. I think I mentioned earlier that I like the rustic look. Well, I've definitely got rustic now because I've got more holes in this frame than I need to have. What happened was, I don't know if I didn't get enough sleep last night or what, but I didn't butt them up. I butted them up incorrectly, and so I ended up drilling more holes than I need to. I broke off one of the brass screws, and now I'm fixing to do the final joint. And part of the problem too is that these boards aren't perfectly square. There's a little bit of a twist to them maybe, so they don't want to come together like boards purchased at Lowe's. But then again, I guess that's the whole thing about repurposed wood, is that, you know, it's supposed to look a little uneven. This will for sure. The red device you see here is a corner clamp. I had watched a YouTube on it. I thought it was a good idea. I picked it up at Harbor Freight. I don't believe it's intended for boards that are this wide, but I just generally just use it to kind of keep them together, and I have to check the squareness with a square. Anyway, I moved you around so you can see me do this final joint, and then after that, I'm going to work out which boards I'm going to put in for the back. I'm going to do that first, I think, rather than put the shelving in. I'm not quite sure what the procedure is, but something tells me that's what I need to do, is get my back boards in first before I do the shelving. And I'm using really small screws. They're number 5, they're 1-inch brass. This board here is a little warped, so I'm having to press it in. I've already measured out my drill marks coming down a half, the middle, and then from the bottom up a half, and in about a 1/4 inch, because the boards are a half. So we'll see how this goes. Since I already snapped off one screw, I want to make sure that hole's not too tight. And then this is my my countersink bit. So that hopefully the screw head will fit flush. Not a lot of resistance. And by using that larger bit to countersink it, I can get a kind of a flush fit. I think I mentioned earlier that I am an amateur and I think this is illustrating a comment. But I am determined to make this thing look halfway decent. I am still cautiously optimistic that it's going to turn out okay. Okay. Feel like I'm finally starting to make some progress. I got lucky. This is my array of backboards. I can kind of mix and match. I'm looking at the colors, trying to figure it out, what might work best where. And the boards aren't going to look near as good as they will when I finish sanding them. None of these boards have been sanded except for the middle board right here. And these black marks, like I said, with the orbital sander, they'll come right out. Now I switched over. When I went up to get a pizza with my wife last night, we stopped in at Ace Hardware and I got some 80 grit. And that kind of helps to just go in there and does the job a little bit quicker than the 120 grain that I had used earlier, like on this board. See the black marks here? All that needs to come out. The yellow, that can all go away. And even the red here, I think will go away, hopefully. But anyway, with the way the width is now with these boards, yeah, I don't think I'm going to have to trim anything. And then I'll get out the chop saw, I'll cut these boards off to the proper length, and then I'm going to get the sanding. Obviously, I only have one side I really need to sand, and the other side I might knock it down a little bit, but pretty much just one side. I'll flip the frame over, attach it, and then I can start working on the shelving. Surprise, surprise, there's been another change in plans for this bottle display case. Just a few minutes ago, I took this frame into the office just to, put it up against the wall to get a look at it. My wife happened to be there and she said, "Oh no, it needs to be vertical." In other words, like this. And when I got to thinking about it, I thought, lo and behold, she's right. Of course, she's always right. And so it's going to require some minor modifications. No big deal. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a do-as-you-go project, and so I'll just figure it out after I get the backboards attached. So I've been going around and finishing up attaching the backboards to the frame with screws. The screws I'm using are Power Pro Premium Interior Wood Screws, 6x1 inch, number 6 in size. And the interesting thing was, and that's really neat, and I swear to goodness, I'm telling you the truth, when I just drilled a hole in this board, and it looks like it must be some kind of an oak, it smelled just like Bono's barbecue sauce. What a great piece of wood, because Bono's is a favorite of mine. And it smelled exactly like the barbecue sauce. Of course, on the other hand, I haven't eaten dinner yet, but. So, just gonna let you see me drill in the last hole and put in the last screw. And then we're gonna flip the frame over, and hopefully I haven't made any errors. So, but I'm coming in about 1 inch from each side of the board and then 1/4 inch, and being very careful to try to drill it on the vertical, because I don't think I've gone through either way on the frame. Of course, this will be the one I make the mistake on. And so then, instead of that kind of a countersink drill bit I was using, I found that didn't work. It was splitting the end of the boards. So I'm just using this drill to kind of waller it out a little bit. And I'm not interested in the heads of these screws fitting flush. These screws will not be seen. I'm just trying to get them in there just to secure the board. Just like that. So here's what it looks like from the back before I flip it over. Now I didn't put each of these exactly an inch. Sometimes when there was a bad crack, like right here, or a crack, I tried to move the screw over to avoid it and hopefully it wouldn't create worse of a split. Now on the back side, I did put in some Elmer's wood glue, and I did clamp it a little bit so that these cracks hopefully won't spread apart. I didn't put it on the reverse side, so the crack will be visible, but then again, I think we're looking for that rustic look. Hopefully it won't be too rustic. The moment of reckoning. Here we go. So what I'm most concerned about is, did the drill bit go in? And thankfully it hasn't. It went straight into the frame and I didn't come out anywhere. So that's good. And again, you'll notice I left the nail holes. I think that looks cool. And I do like it that there's a variety of wood here. This is the Bono's wood, I swear. I think that's going to work. I'm looking at the edge of the top of the frame. I'm pretty well satisfied with it. I don't think I'm going to even have to grind it. I thought I might. I say grind it, I mean sand it. I think it's pretty good. On the bottom, it's a little more uneven, but you know, I'm not going to mess with that either. I mean, it stands up by itself. One more thing I forgot to mention. You'll notice, you'll see the sunlight shining in through these gaps. That was intentional. It was the width of the boards kind of squished together, was lacking coming out to the edge of the frame by maybe 3/8 of an inch. And so then I just tried this, when I laid them out, before I screwed them in, I laid them out so that they're kind of equidistant apart. Now, when I put it up against the wall that it's going to hang on, you won't have this light coming through here. And so that's not going to be an issue. So I've got this on a wide angle, so the display case is going to look a little bit stretchy, but the reason I put it on a wide angle so that you can see it all at once. And in my mind, I had envisioned maybe something a little different than what I've got laid out here, but now that I've laid some bottles in there to get a sense of it, I think I'm just going to go with 2 shelves. These are 12 inches, 12 inches. And this one, the upper shelf will be about 9.5 inches. And then I'm going to have what I call a kind of a box over here. And I'll have a large bottle laying down horizontal. And right here on this shelf, I'll have a series of smalls, small pharmacies probably. I've taken it off a wide angle so that you can see it as it really is. I like it better this way. It's more uncomplicated. It's going to be less confusing to the eye. The next thing I have to do is get my measurements precise, 12 inches, 12 inches. And these 2 boards here, got to do some work on them. You can still see the black marks, so I'll be sanding them down, smoothing it, getting it set up right. And this board here in the center will be precisely in the center. And I'll get all that set up. I've decided to, I had some debates in my head about whether I should glue these boards or screw them in. I'm going to be screwing them in because some of the boards in the back are going to be pressing up, and I'm going to need to press down to get the edge of this board level with the side of the frame. That's my plan. One more thing I wanted to point out before I begin screwing in the shelves was that this is the bottom of the display case. These boards are sticking out a good 1/8 of an inch. I just couldn't let that go. So I took the orbital sander with the 80 grit pad on it. Took me about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and just went over them to kind of even them up so they'll come up more or less flush with this bottom board. I'm putting these screws to secure the shelving in by hand. I do not want to risk snapping a screw with the drill. And there we go. That's nice and flush. And I came back to using this bit as a countersink, put it in there maybe 1/8 of an inch so that this screw head would fit flush. I know there's countersinks you can buy, but this drill bit seems to do pretty good. So I've got this first screw in down about 1 inch, so that I don't risk splitting this wood here if I put it up, say, 1/4 of an inch. I don't have to do that. I'm going to put one here, and I'll put another one down here, maybe an inch up, and that should do it to secure it. Before I went to put this lower screw in to secure the shelf, I took this square, I put it up against the base of the shelf to make sure I had as true a right angle as I can get. If you look down this board, you'll notice there is a bow in it right here. So again, you're dealing with wood that's not perfect, but it's about as true as I can get it. I also brought it down here to try to figure out about where I should put my screw hole in. Well, this is the near finished product. I'm liking it. I think it's going to serve the purpose I had envisioned for it, and that's to showcase some of the bottles I've got. Before I put the screws in here and here, I screwed the T-piece first, and I did put that into the corner clamp that you saw earlier, the one I had gotten from Harbor Freight. And that also works for a T-fitting, if you will. And it actually worked out pretty well for this and helped secure it while I put in 2 brass screws here. Then I came back, put them in here, and there you go. The only thing that I have remaining to do to the display case is that I'm going to put some oil on it. I told you wrong earlier. I had mentioned tung oil. I had forgotten that I did not use tung oil before on the first display case I made. It was Old English, and this is the light. I think they have a light and a dark version. I've already put some on this board here. You can see how it darkens it up just a wee bit as opposed to here. I just want to put a little something on there to protect it. It's really not going to change it a whole lot. Look at here now. Look what happens when I put this oil on this red oak. Look at the color that's drawn out. And I hope that that remains after the oil dries. I think there's still going to be a good deal of color there and make the display case just that much more attractive. Couldn't wait to show it to you hanging on the wall. I just got finished putting the Old English oil on it. I'm liking it. And for the darker wood, look how the colors are popping, particularly in this red oak along the sides here. I mean, it's really nice. Doesn't have as much of a change or an effect on the lighter colored wood, but it seems as though the darker you go, the more that color is drawn out by putting the oil on it. So I don't know, we'll see. It's going to be lighter than it is now when it dries. I realize that. Well, for better or for worse, this is what I got for the finished display case. I like it. I think it turned out fine. I am surprised about how dark the wood became and stayed that way after I put that Old English protective furniture oil on it. I don't know, it's quite a contrast with the bottle display case above it, which has all lighter wood. I don't know if that's good or bad. My wife says it's fine, so like I said earlier, if she says it's fine, it probably is. And I know that if you stayed throughout this whole video, which you probably did to reach this point, it was a lot like, as they say, making sausage. But in the end, it turned out okay. And I wanted to do something where you have somebody like me who's just a novice woodworker. I don't have a fancy shop with $50,000 worth of tools. And so these type of projects would not be something I would do every week, maybe once a year. And so that's why I did the video for those that just have a minimal amount of tools so that they could see, you know, ripping down or breaking down a pallet and then putting it together in a display case like this can be done. And I also wanted to mention, for those that are new to my channel and have never seen any of my relic hunting videos, I would urge you to click on the video entitled Digging an Amazing North Florida Bottle Dump. It's my intro video, and in that video I remove 450 intact bottles. In any case, I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Adios.